Hello everyone and welcome to this course on Introduction to Python for Beginners. In this course we'll be going over the basics of Python and we'll starting working on Python from absolutely scratch. I'll be going over the basics as clearly and as much in detail as I possibly can. So before I begin, I would like to go over why is there a need to learn Python now than ever before. The thing is that with advancement in AI, with advancement in in the field of AI, data science, and machine learning, the demand for experienced Python individuals is increasing exponentially, and the time to learn Python is has never been greater than before. The thing is that with such advancements in AI and the whole world turning to remote jobs, the concept of work from home also gaining a lot of popularity. Python developers are in need, they are in demand across the world, both as freelancers, as individual contractors, as full-time employees. So yeah, it's a no-brainer for anyone working in the field of IT. Python is something that they need to have experience with. So before I begin, I would like to go over a few must-know details. So the thing is that for this tutorial I'll be working on Jupyter Notebook. You can work on any IDE. IDE is basically an environment, an environment in Python. You can work on Spider, you can work on PyCharm, Visual Studio, whatever you feel is you're comfortable with. But I would recommend that you guys work with Jupyter Notebook for this tutorial. So you can easily get your hands on Spider, Jupyter Notebook, and a bunch of other IDs by going to anaconda.com/product/individual. And once you're over here, you can download any installer that suits your needs. Windows installer, Mac OS installer, Linux installer, all types of installers are available both in 64-bit and 32-bit. So that being said, once you've downloaded Anaconda, and once you open it up, you will have a bunch of options like these, such as Spider, Jupyter Notebook, PyCharm, Visual Studio Code. Just go and launch Jupyter Notebook, and once that is done, you will probably have a screen like this pop up, and all you need to do is click on New and click on Python 3. So once that is done, we are right now inside of Jupyter Notebook. So the difference between Jupyter Notebook and other IDEs is that Jupyter Notebook tends to work in a cell by cell format. So basically all of the cells will require the individual execution, whereas other IDEs, they tend to execute all of the code at once. I'll obviously get into that detail later on when we move later on in the tutorial. So yeah, let's start working with Python. Okay, first I would like to go over some basic concepts of what is an integer, what is a float, and what is a string. An integer is nothing more than a digit, a numeric value which has no decimals whatsoever. So for example, if I type 1 is an integer, 2 is an integer. That's it. Any numeric value that does not have a decimal is an integer. What about float? Float is any numeric value but it has a decimal. So for example, 3.2, 3.23, any numeric value but with decimals is a float. And a string is anything that is enclosed between two comma signs. So for example, I put these comma signs and I type out, let's say, data science. So this data science that I have typed in, this is a string because of the fact that it is enclosed between two comma signs. Now if I were to just type in data science, this would not work. The thing is that if we are going to define a string value, we need to have comma signs at all times, and that is something that we need to take care of at all times. So yeah, moving forward, now that we know the concept of what is an integer, what is a float, and what is a string, I would like to go over a few mathematical operations pertaining to integers. So for example, if I would like to add two integers, it's pretty simple. 1 plus 1 and I get 2. And one more thing I would like to tell you guys is that in Jupyter Notebook, when you want to execute your code, all you do is you hold Alt and then you press enter, and that is how your cell gets executed. You can also do hold control and press enter. That works too. But holding down on Alt and pressing enter will create a new block of cell beneath it. So yeah, mathematical operations pretty straightforward. 1 plus 1, 2. We can also add strings, floats for now, floats as well. 2.0 plus 3.0. Pretty straightforward, very simple, nothing hard here. We can also add strings if you would like. For example, I have a string data and I would like to add it to another string science. What do I get? I get data science. So when we add two strings together, they tend to, they tend to merge together. So let's say I have string and another string. If I were to add this together, so what do you guys think would be the answer? It would not be 3, it would be 12. The thing is that 1 and 2 over here, they are not integers, they are strings, and when strings are added, they tend to get merged together. Moving on to multiplication. Multiplication is also straightforward. Asterisk sign is used to imply a multiplication sign. So 1 multiplied by 4, 4, 9 multiplied by 54. Pretty straightforward. Now, one thing I would like to tell you guys is that you can never add a string with an integer. For example, if I were to add string with an integer, I would probably get an error. I did get an error. Strings cannot be added with integers or floats for that matter, but strings can be multiplied with integers. For example, I have that same string data and I multiply it with a numeric value of 2. I will get data twice. So when a string is multiplied with an integer, that string tends to repeat times the value of the integer. So data multiplied by 8 would probably be data 8 times. So you guys get the point. Strings can be multiplied with integers, but they cannot be added. Same goes for subtraction. Subtraction is just like addition. It's pretty straightforward. Moving forward to division. Division is also very easy. We use the slash sign to imply division. 1 divided by 2. Let's say if you have a float, 3.2 divided by 8, we get 0.4. So division, a slash sign is used to imply division. It's also straightforward. Let's say if we were to have a number and we want to see times that number. For example, 2 times 3 is 8. So how do we do that? In 2 to the power 3 is 8. So how do we, how can we represent that notation in Python? Well, we use the asterisk sign, but twice. So 2 power 3 is 8, and when you use the asterisk sign twice, we get 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, which is 8. So for example, 8 power 2 will be 64. 8 multiplied by 8. So double asterisk is used to represent power. 8 power 2, 8 power 3, 8 power 4. The other thing that I would like to go over is the order of operations. And what do I mean by order of operations? For example, mathematically, let's say I have an equation. I have this statement over here: 2 plus 3 multiplied by 3 plus 4. Okay. So mathematically, if I were to look at this, this is not an equation. This doesn't equate to anything. But for example, if I were to look at this expression, the addition would happen first and then the multiplication. So in our case, this would be 5 multiplied by 7, and the answer would be 35. Same goes in Python. In Python, addition happens first, and then the result of that addition tends to multiply first. And by addition, I mean whenever your values are in parentheses. If the values are in parentheses, then that parenthesis will first be solved and then the multiplication will take place. But let's say if I have something like this: 2 plus 3 multiplied by 5 plus 4. In this case, 3 will multiply by 5 will happen first. That multiplication will take place first and then the addition will happen. So I will have 2 plus 15 plus 4, and I get 21. So yeah, when we have values inside of parentheses, those parentheses will be, they will be solved first. But if you don't have parentheses, then the order of operations will be first division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, so on and so forth. Basic mathematics over here. The other thing I would like to go over is a mod. So what is a mod? Let's say I would like to divide 4. When I divide 4 with 2, I don't get any remainder. So this modulus or this mod sign over here gives us the value of that remainder. I get 0. But if I have to divide 5 by 2, I'd get 1. So 2 times 4, 5 minus 4 is 1, so 1 is the remainder. This sign, this percentage sign, is used to represent mod, and mod just gives us the remainder back. That's pretty much it. So 10, let's say I have 70 mod 8, I get what, 216, 7 to my 16, 1. So yeah, that's pretty much the concept over here. Moving forward, I'd like to go over what is a variable and how are variables used when working with Python. So for example, I have a variable x. I would like to give it a value of 1. I have a variable y. I would like to give it a value of 3. I have two variables of x and y, but these x and y values have been assigned values 1 and 3. So let's say I would like to calculate the value of z, x multiplied by y, and if I were to look at z, I get 3. So x has been assigned 1, y has been assigned 3. 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. And I can do the same for addition, and I can do the same for subtraction, multiplication. The operation doesn't matter. So yeah, that is how you assign values in Python. In JavaScript, obviously we always put that var character first before we assign any sort of value, but in Python it's pretty straightforward. We just take the variable, we assign the value. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Another important concept of when it comes to variable is that we can never have variables with spaces. For example, I have value is equal to 1 and value is is 1, but I can never have value of is equal to 1. This will give me an error. We can never have spaces between variables. If I want to represent a string notation of, for example, financial ratio, so I can never have a space. I always need to fill that space up. So for example, financial ratio is equal to 2. Maybe you guys understand what I'm trying to say over here. When we try to give a variable a name, we can never have spaces between variables. There can never be spaces. If there is a space, we'll probably get an error like this that we have seen over here. Moving forward, I would like to go over strings in a little more detail. So you guys already know that strings are represented. They can be any value as long as they're enclosed between two comma signs. Let's say I have a string and it's called data science is awesome. So I have this string and I've assigned it, let's just not call it string, let's just call it example. So I have this exam variable and I've assigned it a string, and that string is data science is awesome. Now let's say I would like to access a few characters in this string. What do I mean by that? Let's say I want to only get data out of the data science is awesome. So the thing is that in Python, indexing is an extremely important concept. What do we mean by indexing? So for example, I have these 4 characters over here. This doesn't start with 1, it will always start with 0. So D is 0, 1, 2, 3, space is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. So let's say I want to see my character 0 for exam. For the string, I get D. 1 will be A. So when I put any number in those square brackets, that particular number is basically going to return the index of that string. So A is at index 1 and I get index 1 for exam. For exam I get A. Let's say I want to see entire data, not just one index. I want to see the entire string data. Well, this is where the concept of index slicing comes in. For example, if I were to do something like this, I get data. So basically what this notation represents, this is basically called index slicing. So what I've done over here is that I have told Python that for exam variable, which is data science is awesome, I would like to see all characters slash numeric characters, whatever is part of that string. I would like to see all characters starting with 0 and up to 4, not including 4, up to 4. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3 data. So I'll get 0123 data will be the answer. And if I were to expand this, I can even do, let's say I want to see science, so it's 0 1 2 3 fourth space 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. So science is starting from 5, and the starting index is always inclusive, it's always included, and it ends at 11, but I won't say 11 because the ending index value is never inclusive. I will always add 1 to it. I get science. So 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. Yeah, 5 is inclusive, 11 is not. That's why I wrote 12 to include 11, and I get science. So this was the basic introduction to index slicing. So the other thing, another important concept I'd like to go over now is print formatting. So what is print formatting? Let's say, so in Python, when we try to when you tend to print a statement, let's say as I write hello, I get an error. But if I'd like to print, I just write hello. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If I want to print a string, I just write print and I get hello. For example, the value of x is 45, 34, 35, and y is sum of all. That's good. So if I were to print x, I get 35, print y, I get sum of all. So the thing is that this print command basically returns us, or you can say on the console, it returns the value of any variable that we wanted to return the value of. For example, I want to see the value of x, I just write print x, print y, and I get that value for x or y, for that variable that we're trying to look at. Now the thing about print formatting is, so let's say I have a variable and I call it Mohit, and I have another variable and I give it the value of 26. Okay, let's say I want to print a statement which takes my name and also my age. It takes my name and it also prints my age with that. So how can we do that? We do that using a concept called print formatting. So in print formatting, what we do is that there are multiple ways to do print formatting. First, we put an F, then we put a single comma over here. We then use curly brackets, is, curly brackets again, years old, comma again, we close that statement. So in these curly brackets, I'll pass in my variables. X is the variable which has my name, y is my age, and if I were to run this, I get Mohit is 26 years old. So in print formatting, basically we pass in variables inside of curly brackets, and those variables are then returned in that print statement. Another way of doing print formatting is we write the statement is years old, but at the end we said dot format x comma y. We run this, we get, so basically it's entirely up to you. You can use this statement for print formatting or the other one, it's entirely up to you. It's pretty easy and pretty straightforward. So that is how we print statements in Python. Okay, moving forward. So I've already gone over index slicing, I've already gone over print formatting. So the last topic for this particular tutorial is lists, the concept of list. So what is a list? A list is basically a set of characters enclosed inside of square brackets, a set of characters or group of characters and separated by a comma. For example, I have square brackets over here. I say Mohit, this is a string, but I separate this with a comma. I write 26 comma, and I put in another comma values. I say Pakistan, and I give this is not list 1. Let's say we have a variable list 1. So a list basically is a bunch of characters or values enclosed inside of a square bracket separated with a comma. Mohit 26 Pakistan. So if I were to access any value inside of this list, I can do that pretty much the same way in which I access characters in the string section that we did earlier. So for example, if I were to return only the first set of characters, say list 1 0, I get Mohit. 0 1 2, list 2, index 1. So inside of lists, what happens is that as these characters, numeric values are separated by commas, index 0 is the first set of characters, index 1 is the second set of characters, which can be numeric, alphabetic, depends on your choice, and index 3 is the other bunch of characters. All of these are separated by a comma. So index 0 is Mohit, index 1 is 26, index 3 is, oh, we don't have an index 3, we only have an index 2. Okay, so that was basic introduction to lists. Another topic that I'd like to go over is nested list. So what is a nested list? So nested list is nothing but a list inside of a list. So for example, I have the same list 1, type in my name Mohit, this is the first index, 26 this is the second index, and the third index would contain a list, Pakistan engineer. So this is a list inside of a list. So for list 1, index 3 is a completely different list. So for example, if I want my list to return this engineer value, so what we do is we take list 1, first we try to return the second index, which is this list over here, and then inside of this second index we want to return this value engineer. So we just try to 1 because it is 0 1, and we get engineer. So yeah, that was an introduction to lists and how lists work in Python. So yeah, this was just one of many videos to come on introduction to the basics of Python. Obviously I'll try to work on IDs such as PyCharm as well, but you guys get the idea of what is a list, what are strings, what are floats, what are indexes, and yeah, just practice. And I really hope you guys like this video. If you do, just leave a like, share it with your friends, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.